All right, time to get started. Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So today we are finally getting some brand new Marvel content. I can't believe the last thing that we saw was Spider-Man Far From Home, which seems like it's been a while. It has been a while, so was definitely, eagerly anticipating this finally to see, the new Marvel TV shows on Disney Plus. And the first one that we're starting off with is Wandavision.
What's a single gal like you doing rattling around this big house?
Well, I assure you, I'm married to a man, a human one.
So since this episode officially comes out today, this is going to have some, slight spoilers in my review, just thoughts on the first episode. So just a heads up, if you guys haven't seen the episode, there might be some slight spoilers in here, so that is just your fair warning before we go ahead and get into things. I was debating if I was going to do one or two videos for this, but I decided, I'm just going to do two separate videos, one for each episode. We got 2 episodes of the show that came out today, and then from what it sounds like, the rest of the show, it's going to be a weekly release. So next Friday we'll get episode 3 and so on. So I'll do the one video for each episode. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start talking about episode 1. So the episode kicks off and we get right into things. There's really, no kind of backstory or anything like that. We just jump right into kind of what's going on right now. And we see Wanda and Vision, and they're traveling in a car. They're moving to their new home in Westview. And, right away we get into just that, that classic sitcom feel of the 50s. And there's a lot of on-the-nose jokes between Wanda and Vision. And Wanda several times, she's breaking the fourth wall, looking at the audience as they would do in some of these older sitcom shows. And I think that's, for episode 1 and 2, that's really what they focus on a lot, is the sitcom aspect of the show. And that's something that I really, really enjoyed myself. I thought it was so cool getting to just see them recreate, some of these classic sitcoms, pay tribute to them. So I thought they did an excellent job of doing that. So after, fairly early on in the episode, Vision, they're talking in the kitchen, and Vision happens to notice, he looks over at the calendar, and there's this little heart on the calendar. And as most people would probably assume, he's oh, we must be celebrating something today. But neither one of them can remember, and they're both yes, and they're trying to play it off on the other one. And so that's, that's pretty funny, them going back and forth what, you don't remember? Of course I do. That's that thing that we're celebrating today. A lot of jokes like that. And throughout this episode, I just found myself smiling a lot, and there were several times where I actually was laughing, fairly hard. So it was just a really, fun, lighthearted thing, to start off the series. And so they initially, I said, they think it's, they're celebrating some kind of anniversary. But as we see, a little bit later, Vision, he ends up going to work, and while he's at work, he realizes that his boss's name is Mr. Hart, and that the Hart was just an abbreviation that he's supposed to be having his boss and his wife over for dinner to try and impress them. So he realizes that, but Wanda still, she thinks it's, for them, just celebrating their anniversary or something. So she's trying to plan all these different things, do a dinner and all that stuff with her neighbor. And, meanwhile, Vision's oh crap, I have to make sure everything's ready for my boss. So basically, a bulk of this first episode really just focuses on Wanda and Vision trying to impress Vision's boss, Mr. Hart, and his wife, and at the same time, just trying not to screw up and also reveal their powers to them. So that's pretty much what a bulk of the first episode kind of focuses on. There is little things, but that's the heart of the first episode. There's at one point when finally, they get ready to sit down after a bunch of different shenanigans going on, them Wanda trying to make the meal and stuff like that, and things just aren't going right. Finally, they get to sit down. They're having a breakfast thing for dinner, and they're just kind of talking. And Mr. Hart, he goes, well, why did you guys decide to move here? When did you get married? Are you having what about kids? And he asks Wanda, and Wanda goes to answer, and she realizes she doesn't have an answer because she's kind of making things up as they go, as you kind of start to realize. And same thing for Vision. He goes to answer the question. He doesn't really know what's going on, so they're both kind of just staring there we don't know. But you can this was at least my interpretation, of the episode, is that at that point it kind of turns into like almost like a Twilighty Zone like moment, which was kind of like eerie there for a second, and I actually really like that. I hope we get more of that, going forward. But all of a sudden, Mr. Hart, he starts to choke on his food, and I think the reason he does that is because Wanda, she started to get upset because she didn't know what was going on, didn't know what to say, and was losing control of the situation a little bit. And so I think she caused him to choke on his food. That's just at least like my theory. That's what it made it seem to be. But I'm curious to see what you guys think as well. So during this episode, we also get to meet one of Wanda and Vision's neighbors, and her name is Agnes. And definitely think that she's going to be an important piece throughout the show, as she shows up in the first episode. She's also in the second episode as well. But her name's Agnes, which a lot of people think is supposed to be Agatha Harkness. And basically, she's like a sorcerer that's in like the Marvel universe. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's definitely what I think where they're going with there. As she just seems to know a little bit of kind of like what's going on, just the way that she interacts with Wanda specifically. She just makes like some of these like comments that's like, I definitely feel like a little bit more than what you're leading on. So we'll see what happens, but that's kind of like where I think that they're going with that character. Another aspect of the episode that definitely make sure to pay attention to is that so far, at least in the first 2 episodes, they have like these little commercials, and they're Marvel's specific commercials, which is cool. So like the first episode has this commercial where it has this guy and this girl, and they're talking about this like this new toaster, and going through all these things, and you're kind of like, what does this have to do with like anything? You thought it was just like a random commercial, but then you end up finding out that it's made by Stark Industries, and you're like, okay, that makes like more sense, little Easter egg there. And then it shows the toaster, and there's like this little like red button, and to me, it kept like flashing, and it almost made like sound like it was going to be like like a bomb like kind of going off, and the lady kind of looks at it at one point and is like she looks a little worried. So I kind of think that's like a reference to like a bomb, which is like a reference to the missile that almost like killed Wanda, I'll say Scarlet Witch, Wanda, and Quicksilver when they were kids. So a little Easter egg there. Another Easter egg, and there's a bunch of them like throughout like the episode, but another one that kind of came out before the episode even like premiered is that at one point before like the dinner, or when it's around like the dinner time, we see that Wanda's like pouring like a bottle of wine, and if you look like real closely, there is an M on the bottle, which is a reference to the House of M, which is a series of like comics that a lot of people think that basically Wandavision is not necessarily based off, but they're definitely taking elements from that, that series of comics and incorporating them into Wandavision. So that's what I kind of get, the vibe too, but, we'll see how it kind of plays out and what they decide to bring from that series, into the show. And then finally, at the end of the episode, we see, Wanda and Vision, they're sitting down after, they got through the dinner finally, and Vision's like, oh, we don't have any rings, like, can you make some? So she ends up creating rings for them, and they're gonna celebrate this day officially as the day that they're they're married. So that's gonna be their anniversary going forward. And then we see Vision, he takes the remote control and he points it towards the audience, and it's like he's like shutting off the TV, and then the TV, it ends up like zooming out, but then we see that someone else is actually watching Wanda and Vision on like an actual like TV like panel inside this like this vehicle or someplace, and I'm pretty sure that's Sword. There's like little like hints and references like throughout the the episode as well. So curious to see which character is the one that is watching them, and I'm sure we're gonna probably find out in like a couple episodes or so. But just a good way to see that while most of the episode definitely focuses on the sitcom aspect, there's little like hints like here and there that it's like there's definitely something else that's going on. So I mean, overall, as far as like the first episode goes, I really enjoyed it. When we saw the trailers, I was like, yeah, this definitely looks really weird. Like, I'm not really sure what to expect. They kind of like make a joke about that in like one of the trailers or whatever. But yeah, I wasn't really sure what to expect. It looked really weird, but I was like, you know what? I am all for that. You know, some people have complained that, you know, it's like, oh, like maybe Marvel is like, plays it a little too safe with some of their like movies and stuff like that. So this, it just looked like something completely different. And I think, you know, so far they're doing like a really good job. I like the tributes to the, you know, the sitcoms and things like that from like the 50s. I thought, you know, if I didn't know this was like a, you know, a Marvel like show and everything, I would think if I saw this, I was just like, oh, this is like an old like sitcom that was like on TV like back in the 50s. So excellent job to them, you know, just like the production team and everything like that. It looks like fantastic. The cinematography, everything is great. And I thought both Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany gave great performances as Wanda and Vision. You could tell that they were just having a blast like filming this, and I've seen like some like interviews with them talking about it and just like really hamming up some of these scenes. It's like I can't even like, I don't even know if I would be, and like I'm by no means an actor, but I don't know if I would even be able to deliver some of these lines without just like cracking up myself, because it's just like so on the nose. But that's what, you know, kept me kind of smiling and laughing throughout the show. I thought it was interesting, and then they, like I said, they do include like little Easter eggs and stuff if you pay attention throughout the episode to kind of keep like this, you know, this mystery. It's like, you know, there's obviously something else like going on, and we're trying to get an idea of what that is. But it's just fun if you've seen all the previous like Marvel shows and stuff like that. It's like, you know, I think you might appreciate this a little bit more. That's probably, I mean, maybe one of the negatives. It's like, if someone was brand new coming into the show, I think you could still watch it and enjoy it, especially if you like some of those old sitcoms and stuff like that. But I think that if you're someone who's, you know, seen like all the Marvel shows, all the movies and stuff like that, you're obviously going to have a better appreciation and catch some more like the Easter eggs and stuff like that throughout the episode than someone who hasn't. So overall, I definitely think it's worth checking out. And I'm going to be doing my review of the second episode as well. So I can't wait to see what else is going on, because they talk about, you know, the world is expanding. So I, you know, myself, like I said, I highly recommend you guys check it out. And I will be doing my episode review for episode 2 soon as well. One thing that I want to mention though, too, that I've seen like, you know, today, like on like some of the like forums, Facebook and stuff like that, is like some people, and it kind of ties in, like I might be doing a video on this, you know, sometime in like the near future. It kind of ties into the whole thing that I've noticed the past few years, where it's like it seems like you either like really like you love something, or people just like absolutely hate it and they say it's like garbage. Because I've seen like some comments where it's like, I watched the first episode, it sucks, it's garbage. And it's just such a weird thing I've noticed the past couple of years, where it's like you can either be one extreme or the other, and there's like no in between at all. I won't get into like that a lot in this video, but I just noticed that some people are like, oh, there's like nothing happens, it's slow, it's boring. And it's like, guys, like you gotta have like some build out. Like this is like a TV like series. There's gotta be like, you know, some build up. You know, and like I said, there's like little Easter eggs and stuff throughout the first like 2 episodes, enough to, at least for me, was to keep me entertained and kind of be like, oh, yep, that's from this, that's from this. So I don't know, for me, I thought it was, you know, it was perfectly fine. It kept me intrigued, and I had a good time, you know, just fun time watching these 2 episodes. So, but I mean, if you guys don't like it, I'm curious to hear, you know, why you guys don't like it. You know, definitely let me know down below in the comments. And if you guys watched it, you know, if you did like it, let me know as well. So I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Make sure if you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it, just so that way you guys get notifications for all my new videos. Like I said, I'm going to be doing reviews for each one of these episodes for the Wandavision series, so make sure to check for that. And as always, guys, please make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.